Ladies, gentlemen, today is somewhat of a quick news roundup, an opportunity to talk about some of the things I haven't in the past week, and I say it's a quick news roundup, but I do end up talking for quite a while. Now, today's first story, I felt like I had to get your opinions on, as well as obviously give my take, and you've probably heard about it already on social media, and that is what Zack Snyder had to say with regards to tying Wonder Woman's backstory and that of other, well, she's a demigod, but obviously gods like Zeus, Ares, into that of the Kryptonian lore side of things. So at this full circle event, I'm not going to play the video, but I'm going to read out the quote, and it is super interesting. During the BVS post-screening Q&A, Snyder said, "We thought Zeus could possibly be Kryptonian, so that Wonder Woman's powers..." Anyway, you can sort of see where that's going. The whole thing of whether or not magic or gods, there's a version of where you're like, that's cool, I guess. Then there's the scientific aspect. You have the pathology of wondering where the gods come from, and we had played around with that quite a bit. Then they also go on to talk about the scout ship in the ice. Apparently Ares, killed his crew, or was the one who caused that to crash. There's even a post on Reddit, and this is the unverified stuff, where they're saying what we just went over, and that maybe the woman who escaped, possibly Kara, was the ancestor of the Amazons. Don't know if that was actually said, but that kind of would go into what they're saying here. So long story short, Snyder was maybe going to put the whole God situation in the DC universe all to be linked back to Kryptonians. They're all Kryptonians, and Wonder Woman herself would be at least half a Kryptonian. So not so much a demigod in the traditional sense, the daughter of Zeus. She would have her powers, as Snyder was going on to say here, because she would be sharing some Kryptonian abilities. And yeah, I mean, going along that route of thinking, if the Kara comment was actually said, again, I don't know if it was, that would make sense. If she escaped the scout ship and she went to Themyscira or whatever, she would be like the ancestor of like all of the Amazons. First and foremost, my reaction to this, and apparently the studio rejected this. I don't know, but like, let's just talk about the whole concept. I don't really like it. Now, I know that Zack was probably trying to ground it in such a way where, as he said himself, magic and powers, that's kind of cool, right? But then, you have the whole pathology of wondering where the gods came from. So he's like, well, a way that we could ground that in a sense that makes it come full circle, pardon the pun there, is that, hey, some Kryptonians, as well as Kara and Kal-El and whoever, Zod and whatnot, got off of Krypton, or maybe long before then, they've been traversing the universe, and it kind of fits in with, ancient history anyway. Like, humans have looked to gods to be these supernatural, crazy, magical beings, but some people say, what if they were aliens? What if it was this? Just people appearing as gods when they're not actually gods, if that makes sense. I mean, Superman is looked to be a god because of his crazy powers, but really, he is not just an alien. I mean, he's a pretty awesome alien, but he is an alien who happens to have these powers on planet Earth. Now, I don't really know how that works with regards to other gods, because Kryptonians on Earth manifest more or less the same abilities. I don't know how other various gods like Ares or Zeus, how did they get all of their own unique properties and powers if they were Kryptonian? I can understand how they could pose as these gods, but either way, like, the more you kind of break it down, the more it just seems... I get what you're going for in a way. I can respect the concept of, making all of these gods appear across humanity, but really they're low-key Kryptonians the whole time. But beyond that, then you like, okay, Wonder Woman, her whole origin, her whole demigod backstory, completely just washed aside because she's actually a part of the whole Kryptonian heritage side of things. And obviously it's not unique to Wonder Woman, but I think that's what most people would be uproaring about initially. Like, her whole backstory, every aspect of where she comes from, her roots is just, linked into, haha, you're a Kryptonian. I mean, she'd still be Wonder Woman, but I guess you get where I'm coming from here. But then all of the gods and magic of the DC universe, would there not really be any of that anymore? Would it always just be going back to Krypton and those who came from Krypton, and that's how they got their abilities. I do agree that it expands upon traditional mythology and gives it its own Snyder spin that can make sense, I guess, within the universe. But I wouldn't say like I'm a mad comic purist, because as I always say here on the channel for years and years and years, adaptations aren't copy and paste, even with regards to adapting, stuff from the DC comics itself. You can iterate, but as I always say, don't deviate too far. So with this, I do feel like it would be quite a big deviation, even to that of some of the characters like Wonder Woman, but also, DC Comics. Like, if the Snyderverse was continuing and growing out and they went with this, it's like, would that mean that, how does Shazam exist? Could he have stolen, or the old wizard stolen Kryptonian powers from the not gods, the Kryptonians? Do you know what I mean? How does that work? Does it even work? Could you even get that? It's kind of closing off a lot as well. So that's my reaction to that. Not a big fan of it. I respect the concept of it, but if I would sign off on it, as if I was an executive, I'd be like, nah. Like, I appreciate what you're saying here, but do all these other things you want to do, but let's keep the kind of low-key lore of magic and gods, as an existing thing as it is in the comics in this iteration as well, because I think it would just alienate a lot of fans. Maybe not everyone. I know a lot of Snyder fans would probably absolutely love this idea and also respect the concept as I do, but I think it just goes a bit too far and changes a bit too many things. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Okay, so up next, if there's any kind of Batman or even old Batman news, of course, we're going to cover it here. Now, this isn't like a major update, but I thought people would appreciate my take on it with regards to, what's been said recently, again, at the Full Circle event, with what Ben Affleck was asked about with his vision for Deathstroke, leading the actor to share his own thinking behind big screen baddies. This is coming from the direct, and they say that according to Affleck, the plans for his Batman movie were to make interesting, nuanced, complex characters, and in particular, to Deathstroke, there were a number of them that I was kind of exploring, and the plans were to make interesting, nuanced, complex characters, in particular to the character you mentioned. I kind of feel like either you do, I'm just going to get into my own preference here, but either you do a kind of massive one villain that is so formidable you just can't imagine how your protagonist is going to be able to overcome it, or you have to really sort of populate kind of, Injustice, these big group of villains where you have to get all these different characters. So I was at the time really trying to hone in and focus on that character and get into depth and detail about it to make him seem as impressive as I felt there was the opportunity to do so. That's the only detail I have for you, because I'm guessing a lot of people are like, what was going on with the Batfleck movie? Is there any more you can tell us? But I still do appreciate hearing this, because no matter what, I love the current Batman that we've got with Matt Reeves. I'm looking forward to whatever happens with The Brave and the Bold, with Damian Wayne coming in and whoever the heck's going to be cast for that future Batman. But I would be completely lying to you if I said that low-key, if I could see the Batfleck movie with everything we've heard about it, like this very pushing to the limits story for his Batman with Deathstroke and what he's putting Bruce Wayne through, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't want to see that. Of course I would. What we've heard about that sounds crazy. There's some things I don't know about, because apparently Bruce Wayne was somehow, in some way, I don't know if it was sinister because Bruce isn't really like that, maybe it was negligent, I don't know, something Wayne Enterprises linked that harmed Deathstroke Slade Wilson in the past that had to do with perhaps him losing his son. And then in this movie, he's on a full-out revenge plan, completely stripping back, peeling away every aspect of Bruce's life until he has nothing left either. And I think it's been said before that involved killing everyone in Bruce's life that he loved, like anyone he had left. And I was just like, does that involve Alfred? Like, that would be insane. I don't know if I'd like that, but the whole idea, I completely do agree with Ben Affleck here. He's like, you either have one character who has got such a hold over the main hero, Batman in this case. How is the main character even going to be able to literally at all overcome this threat? And with what I just said and what's been already detailed out there before, Slade had a very, very tactical plan made up for completely disassembling Batman to his very core of Bruce Wayne, and then disassembling that until there's no man left. Or you kind of do a team villain situation where, as he says in Justice, these big group of villains where you have to get all these different characters. And sure, those movies can be entertaining, and we've heard some early ideas in how it could have been like a very big Arkham movie with all of these villains. That would have been amazing, don't get me wrong. But I do feel like you get a little bit less development with villains. The more you include, the more characters you include, that is, versus that of one villain. It's a more compelling story, arguably. Not saying, again, that it wouldn't be awesome to see like this crazy Arkham Asylum breakout film. I think we'd all want to see that. It would just have to be executed carefully to make it as compelling, or if it even can be, as doing a one hero versus one villain story, and all of that material you can get into with Deathstroke's history, his reason for doing this to Batman, his tactics, the way he's executing his plan. I completely understand why Ben Affleck went down the direction he wanted to with Deathstroke as the Batfleck solo movie villain. So this next thing I want to talk about very quickly is that a lot of people I've seen online are reacting to this in a way where they're like, why is James Gunn, why did he even comment on this at all? Let's first watch the clip, and it's a very quick one.
We're just gonna have to wait and see. You know, I mean, we'll see how things go. So, you know.
The thing is, if he's being asked about the future with regards to Ezra Miller in the DC universe, and he's then responding here, that's all he really can say at the minute. Most people believe that maybe they've already made a decision, maybe not, maybe they're waiting for the success of the Flash movie before deciding if Ezra stays on as that version of the Flash or if there's a recast in the DCU. Whatever opinion you have there, the thing I wanted to get down to here is those saying like this was an odd answer to give. If you're asked on the spot, imagine yourself in James Gunn's position. When you have the movie coming out, you don't want to say anything that could technically compromise people even going to see the movie, even though I think most people's minds are already made up whether they're going to see it or not. You can still argue on the baseline if he said right now, yeah, Ezra's not the Flash anymore. Some people might be like, oh, yeah. B, just ignoring the interviewer would make it even more awkward. So to those saying, oh, he shouldn't have said anything at all, imagine if he just walked away. Imagine if he just said no comment. So all we can say is, oh, you know, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see where things go. You know, is all the guy could do. So what do you think of this? Do you think some people are overreacting? It's not really that much of a big deal. I've just seen a lot of people quote tweeting this, sharing it around, saying, lol, you know, everything I was just saying a second ago. But I don't really see how James Gunn could have reacted any differently in that situation. Any other way would have led down to a road of, if he said, oh, you know, we're looking and exploring into ideas of a sequel. If he said something like that, or inferred that Ezra was staying on definitively, and that was announced in a few months' time or so from now after the movie's release, that Ezra is no longer the Flash, people would then call him a liar. If he said no comment, then, you know, as I said earlier, that would seem a little bit worse. People would be like, oh, what does he mean by no comment? All he could say is, we're just gonna have to wait and see. So let me know your thoughts. So up next, I want to talk about Jason Momoa briefly, because don't forget, he initially had that meeting of that Instagram story that went around where he's going crazy, very excited. Then, you know, we've had some Aquaman stuff in between, all of that. We heard a bit about Lobo. James Gunn, Peter Safran came in as co-heads of DC Studios. And then there was like another meeting where it was a very similar kind of Instagram story where he was like very, very, very excited for his future. And then he had an interview somewhere else saying, you know, I can play other roles. I can be savage, charming, funny. It just seems like no matter what, it was with Warner Brothers Discovery, it was for DC. And sure, you could say it was for Aquaman 3, that whole new meeting he had. Well, it was a little while ago now, but really before the movies even come out. And from what we're hearing, the test screenings are really not looking that good at all for the movie. It's had a lot of shuffling around. Well, Peter Safran said here, and again, I just wanted to add some more fuel to the conversation that's been spanning a few months now. I look forward to working with Jason for many years to come. I would be happy for it to be in Arthur Curry's world, but if/when another opportunity came up, I'd find another great character for him to create. Now, sure, you could be like, that could be a completely different role to that of a DC character. But don't forget, Peter Safran is the co-head of DC Studios with James Gunn. We've been hearing for a long while now about this Lobo stuff. Nothing's really come of it right now. But again, I drive your attention back to the DC meeting or meetings with David Zaslav, Safran, James Gunn, and how he was like, he loves them. What was that for? I mean, I don't think it was for another Aquaman installment at the time of that meeting. The film hasn't even come out. We're hearing that it's kind of all over the place, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be, from what we're hearing in test screenings, as successful as the first one. So I really wouldn't be surprised. And this comment in of itself doesn't mean a whole bunch. But I wouldn't be surprised if and when this other opportunity came up, he'd find him another great character to create, that they've probably already had other conversations about that. But the thing is, we've had Jason saying at the same time over the past few months, oh yeah, Aquaman isn't going anywhere, or that he will always be Aquaman, which leads to people saying, okay, would Lobo be like an Elseworlds project? But really, would James Gunn and Peter Safran want to put Jason Momoa into an Elseworlds project when they probably would want to use him for a character in the DCEU, but he's already Aquaman, right? So ultimately, it is a little bit confusing, but what I wanted to say is that I'm not super convinced. I'm not saying that he's technically not going to be canonical Aquaman in the new DCU. I just still think he could be playing another DC character, whether that's Lobo or someone else. And I'm not even convinced, maybe Aquaman could get a third installment, but if this sequel does completely flop, it does feel intuitive to me that with all of this, I can play another character if I want, all of this other stuff, all of the DC meetings he's had over the past 5-6 months, that it would make more sense to be like, okay, Aquaman 2 did how it did. It suffered a lot of issues in its time in production and post-production, the test screenings and whatnot. And let's look to greener pastures and see what else Momoa can do for us. And given his excitement for the meetings he's had with DC, Warner Brothers, Zaslav, Safran, they're definitely cooking something in the background that I know we've all been speculating for a while about, and I'm doing it right now, but I'm telling you there's something else in his future, and it doesn't feel like it's just Aquaman. But that is everything from me rambling in today's news roundup video. I'd love to know your thoughts on every single little update that we covered. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like. It takes just 2 seconds right now. If you're watching on your phone, your laptop, your TV, maybe you can't do it on your TV, actually, don't know, can you? Maybe some TVs, but like the video, maybe consider subscribing for more videos just like this. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see all of you people in the next video. Goodbye.